So what skill are we covering today? How to shoot harder in soccer. When striking the ball, use the bone of your foot, the hardest portion of your foot where the laces meet the leather towards the inside of your foot. To strike the ball, if you are looking for more power on your shot, striking the ball with the hardest portion of your foot will ensure there is power. So first, we're going to demonstrate with my boot. And basically, there's two different portions of your foot that you can strike the ball with using a driven shot. Sure, you can toe poke it, use the outside, but in order to drive that shot, we've got up towards where the leather meets the laces, and this is what I was just showing earlier. And think of that almost as the bat of your foot, the hardest portion of your foot. So if you want to get a lot of power off of your shot, you want to use something that's a lot harder. However, you're trying to strike a ball, a driven shot, but over a wall, it's got to have some loft to it, then it's going to be a little bit better to go further down on your foot so that you take some of that power off using that broom, what we like to call the broom, because it's a little bit softer. So it'll help you get that power to get up and over, but also so it dips and drops after that shot. All right, so that next thing, that third point, and again, this video is all about helping you shoot harder in soccer. So the next thing is that you never want to just strike the ball with just your leg. You want to make sure to strike it with your entire body. So if I'm going to go and strike that ball and just use my leg, I can only generate enough power with the leg muscles that I'm going to use. However, if I'm able to strike through the ball so that I'm landing past it, I'm striking through it, getting past it, all my body weight, hips, momentum, everything through that ball, I'm going to be able to generate a lot more power on my shot. So a lot of players, they'll strike the ball and cross their legs, lose a ton of power. They'll strike the ball, bring their leg back, lose a ton of power. So make sure when you're striking that ball, you've got to be following through and landing past. So you want to be landing at least a yard past wherever you struck that ball in order to get a lot more power. So it's so important that if you think about it, and this is an analogy, if you think about it like accidentally throwing a punch, maybe you got a brother or a sister that you've accidentally hit before, do you ever just hit with just your arm? Do you just use your arm to punch them? Or do you use your entire body? Do you bend at the hip and at the core in order to strike and give more power? It's the same thing with your leg. Would you just stay in here and use your leg and just swing it in order to get more power? No, you want to use your entire body, use your entire core. So in order to do that, you've got to strike through the ball and land past where you struck the ball. Similarly, you do not want to strike the ball with just your leg. You want to strike it using your leg as well as your entire body. The bone / bat of your foot is the portion that makes the contact with the ball, that hardest portion of your foot. Then you will follow through your shot, land past the ball, and bring your planting leg forward while pointing your hips at the target. Again, the target is the portion of the net where the goalie is not located. Bringing your back leg / planting leg forward is key to easily allow you to turn your hips towards the portion of the net you want the ball to travel. Additionally, visualizing your shot or anything you are going to do in soccer or even in life before you do it takes it and makes it about 80, 90, even 95% as effective as actually having taken a practice shot from that same spot. So if you're going to take a free kick, mentally rehearse it before you actually do it. As you can see in the footage, I'm striking the ball with the bone of my foot and landing past the ball as I strike it. So if you could comment yes if you are really good about following through and striking through that ball. Otherwise, comment no if you're like me for the longest time and actually don't follow through. Wherever you strike that ball is from where you end up after you struck the ball. So yes if you follow through, no if you don't. So that first thing we want to avoid, in most instances when we're trying to drive a shot and get it as hard as possible, is we don't want to use that broom of our foot. We don't want to use that softer portion. Notice up here in this portion of my foot, there's a lot more material. Feel down below. If you have your shoes on right now, feel in your shoes, whether it's a shoe or a soccer cleat, a soccer boot, make sure to touch there. See how much space, how much room, how much area there is between each one of your toes. There's a lot of space. It's not very hard. Whereas if you work your way up your foot, notice it gets a lot harder and harder. So if you want more power, you want a harder shot, use the hardest portion of your foot, use that bone of your foot. And that second thing, super important thing for a harder shot, is resist just kicking with your foot. Resist just kicking with your leg. You've got to be kicking with that entire body. Sure, your foot is what makes the contact. Sure, your leg is what swings your foot, but you've got to use your entire body to generate more power and momentum through your hips, through your core, in order to get a lot more power on that shot. Land past the ball. So in order to practice this, make sure to subscribe in order to be able to watch the Soccer Mindset video series series where I actually talk about the correct way to do deliberate practice and the correct progression to be able to build your skills when it comes to shooting, when it comes to foot skills, when it comes to literally anything in soccer, even in life. If you want to build your abilities, there's a certain way to do it. So I'll give you a little hint right now. It's basically start where you're at, okay? So if you're not very good with your form at all, then just have the ball right there. Don't even work on planting next to it. Just have it already planted and just striking from a dead stop. And then as you get better at that, then work on taking that step into the ball, striking it. Then work on taking a few steps in, then striking it. Then take on and push the ball and then strike it when it's rolling. And again, keep on building yourself up little by little. It's easy. Yard by yard, it's hard. Remember that. So again, Soccer Squad, make sure to stick around to the end of this video in order to make sure you don't miss out on that pro tip of what exact leg muscles we want to use when getting our shot a lot harder. If you want to learn more about how to have the hardest and most accurate shot in your league, then grab the second book in the Understand Soccer series, Soccer Shooting and Finishing, today on Amazon.com using the link in the description below. So for that pro tip you've been waiting for on exactly what leg muscles you want to engage and how to engage them in order to get more power. So what I see, especially with the opposite foot, let's start with that. A lot of players, they just bend at the hip and they try to strike that ball. They just bend at the hip and try to strike that ball. So it's so important that we bend at the hip, but then we also bend at the knee. So notice when I'm bending at the knee and I'm extending my leg here, that's going to be using my quadricep, the largest muscle pound for pound on my body, and that's from basically from right here all the way to my knee. That takes my leg and goes from here to there and extends through. Now my hip flexor is what drives my leg forward, so my hip flexor goes from here to here. It brings my knee in and brings it forward, but to actually extend the knee, I need my quadricep to do that. So a lot of players, they just either bend here or they just bend at the hip, and you want to engage both. Bend at the hip and at the knee in order to get a lot more power to be able to strike a lot harder with both of those leg muscles on the front of your leg.